There was nothing sweet about the Sweet 16 for top seeds Gonzaga and Arizona on Thursday night. They both lose.
They lost.
They lost. They're done. Season over. Duke advancing, so we're going to have to.
That was shocking because everybody said that was the, and by everybody I mean Colin and Julian, they said that Duke was done dancing. They were going to fall to Texas
For
Tech.
sure, and we were going to see Coach K riding off into the sunset there. Texas Tech's defense was too good. And also Villanova upsetting Michigan. And my neighbor downstairs had a bunch of bros over, big Michigan fans, and they were all very sad bros when their party ended last night.
Was that an upset?
No, but they were they wanted their team to win. They wanted the Wolverines to win.
They did.
I'm just looking at it like in terms of like Gonzaga. I don't know. They've been on this stage like so many times. They've been expected.
They've been the 1 or 2 seed. For it's like the Gonzaga curse, everyone's saying.
Yes. So now I think if they want to be that team, winning a championship on a Monday night in April, I think they're going to end up having to do it, not as the Goliath, but as like that team that really nobody expects to win it because this pressure is just unbelievable on these dudes.
They're going to have to be the St. Peter's Peacocks of the tournament if they want.
Yes, for sure.
Because coming in as a favorite is not working for them.
And real quick, too, Arizona and Gonzaga, I do believe, their conferences don't really prepare them for this battle come March Madness. Yeah. They both play these professional style, offenses.
Yeah, you were talking about this.
Finesse, shooting the hell out of the basketball. But once you get to March Madness, you play these other teams for these other conferences that just beat you up, punch for punch, out-physical you. And that's exactly why both those teams are out now and their seasons are done.
And Houston, they were kind of flying under the radar a little. They're now the favorites to win it all at plus 360.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty wild. Also, I just want to point out really quick that the spelling of Arkansas is absolutely outrageous and infuriating. It's spelled.
Kansas is in there.
The word Kansas is in that. So you can't just say that that's pronounced Arkansas.
You know what?
I will
She's already on that. She's about to pop. She has a child cooking inside her. I'm very pregnant,
and I got irrationally angry about this morning. I'm in here screaming about the spelling of Arkansas. But let's bring in DK Nation editor Colin Sherwin. Colin, who's still in Vegas. I feel like every time we talk to you, it's like, he's still there, folks.
Yeah, he's doing a residency.
In Vegas.
I am doing my residency, but next week you'll be talking to me from Cafe Du Monde at the Final Four because I'm going to head down to New Orleans as well from here, directly from Vegas to New Orleans for the Final Four.
That sounds horrifying.
Yeah,
hydrate appropriately.
It really does.
Get some donuts at Cafe Du Monde too.
Welcome to the SWAC, Colin, presented by DraftKings. Hey, where are you leaning towards? Who are you leaning towards in those two regions?
And how do you feel about the fact that you and Julian both said that Duke was done dancing and then they beat Texas Tech?
Before you answer that, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you're the one who called the upset last night with Gonzaga.
Yeah.
So congrats to you. I made sure to tweet out all the love for you because you deserve it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, the Arkansas. Hold on, wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, it's still fun in Vegas.
Oh, make it rain!
There we go.
Are those $1 bills? Are those $1 bills?
Yes, exactly. No, the Arkansas, it was just a matchup, and I just thought that Gonzaga was going to really struggle. Like you said, Emerson, that they struggle with physical teams. There's not a more physical, tough team in America than Arkansas, and it's just sometimes who you draw in the tournament. I thought Gonzaga was the best team last year, too, and then they ran into Baylor, who plays that same kind of physical, aggressive, in-your-face, man-to-man defense, and they make people struggle. So, I think Gonzaga's just got to find a way to get tougher in the long run. But for today's picks, I like Kansas -7. I think the luck has to run out on Providence at some point. It's a great story, but they're just not that good. They've been very lucky all year, according to the advanced stats. They're very guard heavy, which I do like, but I just don't see it. And I think Kansas is the play tonight, even laying 7, because I'd lay double digits here, and I think I'd feel pretty good about it. And then the other one is, we can get into it, but I really like North Carolina as well.
Okay, yeah, that would be Kansas then reaching the Elite Eight for the 9th time under Bill Self. Not feeling the Friars making their first appearance since '97, clearly. But I think there's kind of like, the Cinderella team a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah, St. Peter's. They don't even have their team's logo on their warm-ups jerseys. It's just kind of crazy.
Well, Peacock takes up a lot of space.
No, it's not on their warm-up jerseys. I saw something, they were like going to their buses and they were wearing their like tracksuits, and
Cool.
they were just like normal Adidas. They didn't even
I
say
love
like
that.
St.
I love that
Peter's or
about them. You'll
anything.
fly under the radar.
But can they keep up their Cinderella story? Like, how do they match up versus Purdue? Are they going to keep the narrative going, or is this where they finally come back down to earth?
I think by Monday morning we could see Shaheen Holloway back at his alma mater as the head coach, because I think the glass slipper ends this evening. Look, St. Peter's is a great story, and it's been fun to watch, but at some point these things catch up to you. Purdue as one of the top 3 offenses in the country, just matches up really well. Now, the other thing about Purdue is that they really struggle in second halves. So I really like Purdue first half tonight, but I just think the glass slipper runs out. Congratulations to St. Peter's for everything they've accomplished. I didn't know where that school was before this tournament started.
I
and
still
think
don't know where
a
it
lot of
is.
other people.
It's in New Jersey.
Jersey City.
Jersey, yeah.
City, home of Ben Zwyman.
Cool.
Yes, Jersey City, New Jersey. But otherwise, I had no idea where it was, and I'm super happy for them, and it's a great story. But otherwise, it's over. So congratulations. And now maybe they'll get a few more applications. It'll be a little tougher to get into St. Peter's College next year.
Okay, I know you said you like Kansas, but give us a specific bet from that game that you like. You got one?
Just a win. I mean,
Okay. So like
Providence
money
can hang
line?
around.
We're talking money line here? Okay.
Oh, no, spread. Yeah, lay the 7. Lay
Okay.
the 7. Lay 8 if you have to. Lay whatever you got to lay. It was 7.5. It's actually gone down to 7, which means some money's coming in on Providence. But
Yeah.
I like Kansas here. I just think that they're the more talented team. I think they'll have, Ajabi in the post. And I always say his name wrong. I'm terrible with names. I don't know if you guys have figured that out yet. But I think he'll just have a field day in the post. I don't think anybody has Providence as anyone to match up with them. When Kansas misses shots, they're going to rebound him and stick him back. So I really like Kansas tonight. Lay whatever you got to lay. And congratulations to Providence on their Big East championship. I think they're a program that's absolutely heading in the right direction. Ed Cooley should be the national coach of the year this year, but they run out this evening.
Yeah, and I know Robert Kraft flew them out in the Patriots airship.
Airship?
The big large plane.
The private jet?
It's not a jet. It's an actual jumbo plane.
Yes. Okay.
Anywho.
Oh, like the team play. Oh, that's fancy.
No, what are you talking about? Crickets. Okay. Best bet: North Carolina and UCLA.
So for this game, I'm not quite sure why the number is moving in the direction of North Carolina, but I like it because I liked it at 2, and I like it even more at 2.5. I guess this is people saying that Jamie Jaquez from UCLA is going to be healthy and he's going to be able to go tonight. Keep an eye on that injury if you're betting this game as well. Whatever information you get there is going to be really valuable, because I don't think UCLA can even get close to winning this game if he's not 100% of a go. But I like North Carolina here anyway. I think Brady Manick and Armando Bacot can just sort of dominate in the front court against most teams. They'll have a little bit more trouble with UCLA, but it's the guard play here that makes the difference. And RJ Cole is just going to be able to do things. I like Tyler Campbell. I think he's a good player, but I just think he's a little overmatched tonight. So I really like this matchup. I think UNC wins this game. I don't think you even need the spread. This is a money line bet for me.
All right, last matchup of the night. 2 double-digit seeds, Iowa State, Miami, heading into the tournament. Miami had plus 30,000 odds to win it all. Iowa State was at plus 40,000. So as of yesterday, the biggest bet for tonight's game was on Miami at -1. So a better put $150,000, 157.
Just more than 157,000
on Miami, -1 at -110. Now that would pay out $300,894. Colin, wow. Why are you putting your mortgage on Miami here?
So much.
So much money.
Well, actually, I just happen to have the mortgage right here. So let me.
Great!
Money.
I'm gonna take Miami here. I'm riding the hot hand. I think this Miami team can really score. Iowa State is one of the better defensive teams in the country. I think they're actually top 5 in terms of efficiency. So Iowa State can stop people, but what they can't do is score. And I think Miami can just get in their shirts enough to annoy and stay away. Miami's a much better defensive team in March than they were in December. This is a team that has improved significantly during the season. This is one of the great coaching jobs in America by Jim Larrañaga. And I just think Miami finds a way to get through. So I think this bettor is going to walk home with $300K. I've got Miami winning tonight, and I think they cover as well.
Well, here's a cool little option on the DraftKings Sportsbook before you take off. Like, you can opt in to a 25% parlay boost on the DK Sportsbook. So that's an extra 25% of your winnings if you hit at least a 3-leg parlay. Are you confident enough in your picks here that you have shared with us on the show to parlay those together, or would you prefer to maybe go with a little safer 3-leg parlay?
I think that this is, this is okay to parlay, especially with the 25% boost. Yeah, go for it. Absolutely. But if I'm going to sort of be on the fence, maybe mix in a little Purdue as your third team. Yeah, get 13.5. Like, they're not going to lose. God bless St. Peter's, but there's a reason the line's 13.5. So if you don't feel great about one, that's the good thing is you've got a little safety to mix in there. But give me Kansas, give me UNC, and heck, give me Miami. Let's go big. Go big or go home.
Let's go.
All right,
dude.
up,
man.
Did you, before you took off, I know we were talking a little bit off camera beforehand. Did you have a women's March Madness pick?
Oh, yeah. I got one for tomorrow. I love UConn. They're one of my favorite programs to watch. I've watched them beat up on my alma mater for 17 years, and I think it's 41 straight losses. Like, they're amazing, and I think they're great. But they're not good this year, and Paige Beckers is just not healthy yet.
Yeah.
Indiana is a team that can really defend. They're getting 8.5 right now. I really like Indiana to beat UConn straight up, but I'll take the points here just to be safe. It's in Bridgeport, so it's going to be a home court for UConn. But I don't think that matters. I think Indiana is just going to be the better team. This is not a healthy UConn. They'll be back. They'll be, what they were before. They're going to be fine. But this is just not that team this year. So I'll take the 8.5 in Indiana. I think it's a really, really good bet. I feel as good about that as I did about Arkansas yesterday. So We'll see if it works out. By the way, that UConn team, I believe they also beat the University of Central Florida Golden Knights from Oviedo, Florida. Yeah, I think they took them out of the tournament. Oh, and no, your coach is going to Georgia as well.
Oh my God.
I'm so sorry, Emerson. Tough break.
We are a launching pad for greatness. Dude, UCF was in there in the last couple minutes of that game. Let's give them a little bit of credit.
I like to take this
and the fact that they are is why we're fading UConn.
Yeah. I would like to take this opportunity to remind everyone that it took Emerson 5 years to graduate from college.
It took me longer.
Yeah, that's right. You're the loser.
All right, guys. All right. Good stuff. Colin, thank you.
Thanks, dude.
Enjoy Vegas.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you again as the week continues here, but we're going to continue our MLB divisional breakdown.
NL East.
NL East. Coming up next. Okay, we are continuing our MLB divisional breakdown, and today we're looking at the NL East. You're seeing some key additions here.
Yeah, man.
A lot of big names, huh?
Yeah. I mean, Matt Olson coming to Atlanta because Freddie Freeman took off, and then
Max Scherzer to New York.
Yeah, and then look at Philadelphia. There's a deep drive into left field by Castellanos, and that's going to be a home run. Kyle Schwarber now joining the party as well. But yeah, New York. Wow, Max Scherzer's going to kind of change the game there for the Mets, who once again have World Series hopes that will be crushed and over, I'm sure, by July. Jorge Soler now in Miami, and Nelson Cruz, 70 years old and still hitting taters, going to be doing it now in Washington, because let's keep in mind here, the National League has a DH now,
Yeah.
which is exciting stuff. Thank God we don't see pitchers hitting anymore.
All right, let's bring in DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, RotoWire's Eric Halterman. Fellas,
Steve.
thank you for being here. Let's just jump in. Steve, which team has improved the most this offseason in the NL East with additions, re-signing? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the NL East was very busy this offseason. You know, we took about a 90-day break or whatever in between, but there was still a lot of moves that were had before and after the lockout. I mean, I think it's fair to say that every team did improve in some aspect, but you can't disregard how much the Mets are going all in this year. Doesn't mean anything until they actually win something, which is, you know, a big step to take. But you look at the list of players that they added this offseason. I mean, anytime you add Max Scherzer, even though he's getting up there in age, the way he's performing and still pitching is still a huge boost to them. I mean, I think it's fair to say the Mets have the best rotation by far in that division. So have to give the hats off to the Mets here.
Do you agree, Eric?
So I can certainly see the case for the Mets. The names they added are huge. The one thing is if you account for the subtractions as well, I think it no longer looks like the Mets. Of the other top teams in the division, obviously the Braves did lose Freddie Freeman, so I don't think you can make the case that they're the most improved unless you cheat and say that, well, they didn't have Acuna for the second half last year, and if he counts as an addition, sure, maybe it's them. The Mets, though, they did certainly get better, but they also lost Marcus Stroman, Noah Syndergaard, Javier Baez, Michael Conforto. That's a lot of talent to lose. Whereas if you look at the Phillies, they lost Hector Neris, Ian Kennedy, Brad Miller. That's kind of it. Not exactly names in that same tier. So in terms of net improvement, I think it is the Phillies adding Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Corey Knebel to the back of the bullpen, and a few lottery tickets back there. I think when you factor in that they didn't really lose anybody that they care much about, I think you could make the case that it's actually them and not the Mets who had the stronger offseason.
All right, well, as you guys have kind of spit off a few names, ton of additions here to improve rosters. And that really led to every team having a higher win total than their 2021 finish. So, Eric, which team will go over its win total this year?
I think, again, you could make the case for the Phillies, partially because they sit in an interesting spot in that they probably still need to add another piece at the deadline. So teams like that, their total talent by the end of the year is higher than what the projections say right now. And the projections actually already like the Phillies to go over that 85.5 win total. They're about 87.5 on Fangraphs, 86.5 on Baseball Prospectus. The Braves and Mets are also seem to be fairly priced according to the projections. The Braves are about 1.3 wins over that 90.5 win total on both sides. So they're a good case too. But I think because the Phillies, if they're playing at an 85 win pace come late July, they're going to need to add something so that they can play at, closer to a 90 win pace the rest of the way to make the playoffs. I think they're in that sweet spot where the over seems pretty interesting.
Steve, which team exceeds expectations in the win total department?
Yeah, I have no issue taking the over on the Braves to go over 90.5. I mean, I get it. They lost Freddie Freeman, but you're, taking Freddie Freeman and you're putting Matt Olson in his spot. It's not like it's a huge downgrade in there. And then they also added Kenley Jansen to the back of that bullpen. He's been one of the better closers for years now over with the Dodgers. Now he's with the Braves. That's something huge for the back of their bullpen. And I absolutely love their rotation. After Charlie Morton, it's just a plethora of young guys with tremendous upside. Max Fried, Ian Anderson, even Tucker Davidson potentially grabbing that fifth spot. There's a lot of good pitching on that Braves staff. Their offense is going to be impeccable. Adding Olsen into that mix, some extra power, even some more power than Freddie Freeman had, I think it's going to be huge for them. So I like them going over 90.5.
All right, on the DK Sportsbook, there's a team versus team regular season wins match bet. So usually the Mets and Yankees are just competing for the back page, but in this bet, it's direct competition. So Mets plus 1.5 wins is minus 105. I mean, with Scherzer and DeGrom, Steve, can the Mets finish within a game of the Yankees?
It's pretty incredible to see this number, right? Because, this is not something you'd expect to see at any point. But the Mets have just gotten that much better. I think we have to really look at the two divisions here as well. The Mets have a much easier division compared to what the Yankees are going to be facing in almost half of their games in the AL East. There is so many legitimate teams in the AL East that it's not going to be easy sledding for any team in that division with the Rays, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and everything that they're doing. They're trying to turn into the East Coast version of the Dodgers, it looks like. That is not going to be an easy division, whereas the Mets have... It's not an easy division by any means, but I think we can say it's softer competition there. The whole NL as a whole, I think, aside from the West, is pretty soft. So I think that the Mets might be able to actually win this bet here. Both of these teams are within the same 90.5 wins projected for the Mets, 91.5 projected for the Yankees. So they're obviously right there. But I think the Mets can close out the season within a game of a half of the Yankees this season.
All right, Eric, what do you think? Could we see this happen? Could the Mets finish within a game of the Yankees?
Yeah, I think the line is set very fairly. It's almost exactly where the projected standings over at Fangraphs have it. I believe they have it as a 1.6 win gap over the in the Yankees' favor. And if they do manage to win an extra 1.6 games, I guess you take the Yankees side there. Really, this comes down to health, unfortunately. Both these teams are very talented, but they're two of maybe the most fragile teams out there. The Mets did add a lot of pieces, but it's a very old set of additions. Chris Bassett, I believe, is the second youngest starter in their opening day rotation, and he's 33 years old. Those new lineup additions they made, Starling Marte, Eduardo Escobar, Mark Canha, all at least 33 years old. So the potential downside here, even without factoring in that it's the Mets, is very high. But the Yankees, they're incredibly fragile as well. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Josh Donaldson, Aaron Hicks, all those guys, significant injury concerns. So this really feels like a bet on which team you think is going to stay healthier, because I think in terms of talent, I think it's set really in the correct place.
Now, speaking of DeGrom and Scherzer, who we've mentioned a bajillion times in this segment, plus 330 and then like plus 800 here, respectively, to win the NL Cy Young. Top two favorites, Philly, Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, not far behind, plus 1,000 and plus 1,200 there. Eric, what are the chances the NL Cy Young comes out of the NL East?
I think it's over 50%. I mean, there are challengers from the other divisions. Corbin Burns, Walker Buehler, Brandon Woodruff being the notable ones. But 4 of the top 7 in the NL East, I think if you could find an NL East Cy Young bet, I'd take it. And out of that group of NL East pitchers, I think I would take Aaron Nola, mostly just because his odds are the best. He is correctly the worst of that set of 4 NL East pitchers, but not by a lot. He's also the youngest, so probably the least injury risk there. Wheeler's already dealing with something. We all know about Jacob deGrom's injury sagas, and Max Scherzer seems to deal with something minor every year these last few years. Nola's ERA last year was pretty bad, 4.63, but all of the underlying metrics loved him. At his best full season strikeout rate, just shy of 30%, and his career low walk rate. So it still looks to me like a pitcher who's in his best form, still on the right side of 30. I like those odds for him there.
Steve, it's hard to see the NL Cy Young winner not coming out of this division.
Also, just you hate to be on the wrong side of 30.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
I am.
I think we all are.
We all are.
Yeah.
But Jesse, you look great. So
Phenomenal, right?
Thank you.
Don't get her started on these swollen thumbs.
I know.
These things are.
Hey, listen. She's going through it. She's looking great. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the Cy Young. Okay. And I'm a little disappointed. Nobody called me the Cy Young whisperer after my performance from last year, so that's a little disappointing. But whatever. Let's keep talking about this year. I mean, you look at the top 10 guys that are listed. NL East or not, like all of these guys have a very legitimate chance to win the Cy Young, which is probably why the odds are set as they are. So congrats to all the odds makers on that. But even going down the board, there's some other guys in the NL East that could surprise. Like I look at someone like Pablo Lopez at 35-1. That whole Marlins rotation is full of guys that have tremendous upsides, and Lopez is one of those guys at 35-1. Not saying he's going to be the guy that's going to win it, but the NL East is just loaded with so much talent in the rotation that there has to be an extremely high chance that it's going to come out of the NL East here, even if it's with some of the obvious guys like DeGrom, like Scherzer, or Zach Wheeler. There's just so many guys that you can take here, and at good odds too. So I would say that there is a very, very high chance it comes out of the NL East. If not, I bet it comes out of the West, because you have guys like Carlos Rodon, who is now in the NL West with the Giants. He could have won it last year if he stayed healthy, but that's okay because Robbie Ray got it, so no problem there. But guys like him going into that division as well, there's a lot of talented pitchers that could take this prize home.
All right, guys. Steve, what's just like a player future from the NL East that you like right now? Plenty to choose from.
So, we talked about teams going up head-to-head over wins. You can get players to go head-to-head against each other for home runs. You can get Juan Soto at even money against Ronald Acuna to lead in home runs between the two players. Obviously, Acuna is an immensely talented player, but he has a lot of injury issues. That's why he's missed a ton of games over the past 2 years. Juan Soto finally has some protection in that Nationals lineup. You did not need to pitch to Juan Soto last year because there was nobody you feared after that. Bringing Nelson Cruz in as the DH is going to give Juan Soto the much-needed protection that he has needed. So now teams are going to have to pitch to Juan Soto. He's going to be able to show off that power and the talent that he has. It's going to be a close race if both of these guys remain healthy. But if I'm getting even money on Juan Soto, I'm absolutely taking that.
All right, Eric, player future that you're looking at.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was looking at these, that's actually the exact same one that I like. So I guess consider this a full panel endorsement. Juan Soto doesn't barrel the ball quite as often as Acuna does. Acuna was over 20% last year before he went down, although Soto did start barreling it more in the second half. He actually joked during the home run derby that it was going to fix his swing. A lot of guys talk about it ruining them the rest of the way, and he was right. So I guess he might know a thing or two about hitting. He also strikes out far less than Acuna, giving him more chances to homer. If we want to throw out a second potential one here, I talked about Bryce Harper's home run over previously. I believe it's at 33.5. All the projections pretty much like the over on that by at least a few. And I think with more talent around him in Philadelphia, that one's looking even better as well.
We'll get you out of here with this. Braves plus 140 to win the division. Mets sitting at plus 155. Philly at plus 380. Eric, are the Braves the pick to repeat, or do you like another team's odds to win it?
I thought I was going to come into this liking the Mets more, but looking at the projections, they really do favor the Braves, and I think the reason there partially is the Mets, in addition to all those additions, they had a bunch of subtractions, so it's not quite as good as an offseason as it looked, and again, they're very fragile, quite old, so I think the downside risk with the Mets is very high. If everything goes to plan, I think they're the best team in the division, but you can't assume everything's going to plan with a 26-man roster over 162 games. So give me Atlanta there.
Steven, talk to me.
The odds aren't overly enticing, especially with the Mets, kind of nipping at their heels there. I think the best bet overall is probably the Phillies at plus 380. But, what is the real chance that the Phillies can overcome the Mets and the Braves? Obviously, that's going to be something to overcome. So as it stands, the Braves are properly priced in this one here. You're just not getting a lot of bang for your buck here. So I think the Braves are the answer. But, again, I'm not running to bet this at plus 140 when there's a lot that can happen in a 3-team division. So it's the right move when it comes to how the odds are set, but I'm not exactly crazy about the odds.
All right, good stuff, fellas. Appreciate the time as always. Thank you to our baseball dudes. We are talking racing next. 2 different types of races. We're talking NASCAR and we're talking F1. Stay tuned.
All right, here we go. We're going to make our way to the track now. DraftKings contributors Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich are racing experts.
F1! Last week was the first F1 race of the season.
It was sick. It was the first time DraftKings has offered DFS for F1. I know Pierce really gave us like a crash course there, pun intended,
and
last week.
And we're doing it again for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix.
You want to help
Pretty
me out
cool,
with that?
Right? We saw a couple of Red Bull cars breaking down late.
Leclerc?
Leclerc.
Leclerc, dude, that's how you pronounce it.
Getting the win as Ferrari went 1 and 2.
That kid's 24. I'm looking at him like, oh my God, you look 12.
So much money. God, it's just, there's so much money in F1.
There really is.
And he's so young.
It's an incredible sport.
I hope he has a good money manager. Pierce, what do we need to know this week when we're making our DFS and sportsbook plays for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix?
Well, first thing you probably want to know is that it's Leclerc. The C is silent.
Oh, God!
Oh, my God, sorry.
You looked it up, too!
I looked it up 3 times, and Google freaking lied to me, dude.
It's okay.
Thank you.
This is a international sport. There's a lot of funky ways to say a bunch of these different names, so not a big deal.
Okay.
If we're looking at the Jetta Street Circuit, this is a lot different than Bahrain last week. This is high speed. It's very tight. It's going to be chaotic. Last year's race was chaotic. It's already looking that way through practice. The F2 practice had multiple wrecks. In the Formula One practice this morning, we had guys missing their braking zones. It's hot. It's slick. It's sandy. They're all over the place. I would expect, obviously, with all the rule changes in the offseason, we're going to have mechanical failures so we can get some DNFs. But we're also going to see plenty of wrecks. So there's going to be value drivers that we wouldn't expect to run very well that are just going to make it through based on attrition because it's going to be a pretty hairy race. Early on, it looks like Red Bull is going to be the team to keep your eye on. That's the Red Bull team. That's also AlphaTauri. They're on top of the practice board in practice 1 on the medium tires and the soft tires.
Okay, so with that in mind, how hairy you expect this race to be, who are you looking at for your captain pick in DFS or maybe like a winner on the sportsbook?
Well, I'm expecting Max Verstappen to bounce back. As you mentioned, yes, the Red Bulls did have a mechanical failure last week. They seem to have fixed the vacuum issue in the fuel cell or whatever it specifically was. And Max Verstappen in the first practice, which is not the best practice to use, he was incredibly fast. He wasn't making very many mistakes. He was working on a lot of different things. He was clear-cut the best driver. He's the defending champion. He was up there last week, probably had a really good chance of winning that race if he makes a couple of different moves. Right now, it's got to be all about Max, especially with the revenge narrative of really wanting to bounce back from last week.
All right, Jeff, should we ask you what you think? Or?
No, let's he's more of an NASCAR guy.
Okay,
Let's
then
go to
let's get
NASCAR.
into NASCAR.
Very specialized racing knowledge here, Jesse. Sorry.
All right. Sorry. Top plays for DFS and sportsbook picks for the Echo Park Automotive Grand Prix at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
That's a mouthful. Road course this week, so we're actually turning right today in NASCAR. So who's a good value play in DFS, do you think, Jeff?
I like going to Chris Boucher. Unlike you, I didn't look up this guy's name. I'm just gonna wing it here.
Cool.
But he's 7,300 on DraftKings, and I actually really like this setup. I think he is a very, very solid value. He was third at Charlotte Roval last year. His top 18 in each of his last 7 road courses that he's raced on. So this dude's a road course racer, Jesse. He likes it on the road courses. That's what I've gleaned from this week. It's a little bit of a different setup, and I think Boucher at 7,300. He's also been top 20 in 5 of 6 starts this year, so he's actually been driving very solid. Like, he's been a solid DraftKings producer, and he's only 7,300. The thing with these road courses, too, is you want guys who are, racing clean, so to speak, not going to crash. That's what he's been doing. Give me Chris Boucher at 7,300.
Maybe Pierce knows how to pronounce it.
Chris definitely knows.
So NASCAR is not an international sport, so we're just here in America going to say Busher.
Busher.
No fancy.
Dude, it should be sponsored by Busch Beer.
Just Busher. And Busher's good. Busher plays the track positioning well and holds on to positions. He might not be the best driver, but he's good enough and has benefited from strategy. I like Todd Gilliland in this race. Last season in the Coda truck race, he won, and he's been a very good punt play this season. Cole Custer, we mentioned a lot on here. He's very cheap. He's running double duty, so he's going to run plenty of laps in the Xfinity race and practice. So when they start this race on Sunday, he's pretty going to be the most experienced Coda NASCAR driver actually in history. So he should be able to run well. And then Michael McDowell has somewhat of a road course experience throughout his history, but he's been pretty good at the road courses. And typically he's $2,000, $3,000 more at a road course. So McDowell, Gilliland, and Custer are the value that I'm looking at.
Pierce, I miss the days when you bring in these road course specials like a Ron Fellows. Remember that dude? He's Canadian, Jeff, by the way. Anyway, what's a top 10 bet you're eyeing for this one, Pierce?
As I mentioned before, I like Gilliland and McDowell, both with plus 200, plus 300. I think they're slightly undervalued. Good road course racers. Gilliland also almost won a road course in Canada in 2018, just got wrecked on the last lap. So he knows what he's doing. They're a good team together. They've both run well at this track. Shorter odds that you might want to target are Ross Chastain and William Byron. I think these guys are undervalued, underrated, and underappreciated. I would argue that they're both top 5 road course drivers. They were excellent at the road courses last season. They may not have always got the best results, but they definitely have the talent and the skill for this track, and they've also been running really well this season.
Jeff, hook me up, dude.
I'm going to hook you up with Tyler Reddick. I'm going to go back to this dude. I know he kind of crashed and burned for us last week, but again, you're targeting road course specialists here. I mean, he was second at Charlotte last year. I believe he was top 5 at this event as well last season, too. So he's got top finishes on the road course. He's been racing well. You know, you take out last week, he already had 2 top 10 finishes on the year. I actually like going to him for top 5 at plus 300. If you want bigger odds, I think that's absolutely fine. I mean, everyone's kind of speaking about how good a driver this guy is and how good he started the year. And he's got some road course, you know, history to go back on as well. But you can get him at plus 300, plus 3,000, excuse me, for an outright and plus 300 for a top 5. Like, I'd rather chase the upside with this dude than even just take the minus 120, excuse me, for a top 10. That's fine, because I think this is a good situation for him. Like I said, he's got that road course pedigree, but I think Tyler Reddick is racing well enough that he can even go bigger. Go with the top 5 with Reddick at plus 300.
All right, Jeff, who is your pick to win it all?
All right. I mean, I do like sprinkling on Reddick at plus 3,000. I mean, I think you just need to do that. But let's go AJ Almandinger. His two Cup victories have come on road courses. He's raced pretty well to start the year too. I think plus 1,600 on a course where, you know, I mean, you can either just basically go with Larson or Elliott, one of the favorites, and there's a good chance one of those guys are going to win. But if I'm drifting back here, Almandinger's the guy who could easily pop up on a course like this. And you know, with the way the cars are driving, and it seems like it's given a lot of people chances. I mean, we're having just different names every week. I think AJ Almandinger is very live here. Again, very good road course racer. Obviously, he's won Indy. Plus 1,600. Give me Almandinger.
All right, Pierce, your pick to win it all.
I'm going to go with that chalk pick that Jeff mentioned, Kyle Larson, but I'm going to build off of what he said with Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick is a dirt racer, just an all-around good racer, and you put these guys at any track, they're going to figure it out. Reddick is a perfect example of a guy who's figuring out road course racing. Kyle Larson is another guy. The Circuit of the Americas is a brand new track to all of the guys. And so basically the best driver, the quickest learner, and the best equipment are going to have a huge advantage. Tyler Reddick is one of those guys, and we saw that last year from him. We also saw it from Kyle Larson last season. He probably would have won this race if they had run it all the way to completion. They cut the race short. He thought he was going to win. I mean, he's fast everywhere, road courses, dirt tracks. I mean, this race was a monsoon last season. Basically, he was running underwater and still beating people. You can't beat Kyle Larson.
That was a great segment, guys. I think we learned how to pronounce a number of names within the racing world. You two enjoy your weekend. We'll catch up with you on Monday, and we'll see how these picks panned out for you. We will talk some NHL. DFS, a little bit of sports book with Paul Bruno of RotoWire right after this.
Looking at the top scorer from last night's 10-game slate, David Pastrnak, 3 goals, 8 shots on goal, 46.5 fantasy points.
Yeah!
0 assists.
Dude,
Would like
3
to add.
servings of pasta last night as they knock off the Lightning.
Move ahead of Tampa for 3rd
in the Atlantic Division. Yeah. I think they're actually tied now for like 2nd place, but I don't know what the head-to-head tiebreaker is. But this is like the Bruins right now, I was looking at the record, 12-2-1 in their last 15 games, and all of a sudden, like, they're settling into this position that nobody saw coming around that Christmas, like, COVID break.
Yeah.
Like, that team was lost, and now that they've added, like, top pair defenseman in Hampus Lindholm from the Anaheim Ducks, like, the Bruins are just steamrolling people right now. And last night was a massive, massive statement win.
Yeah.
And in the Lightning blowing two leads in that game.
Not great. Also, something to note, Claude Giroux had 2 assists in his Panthers debut.
Oh, yeah.
That was like just a big, obviously, because that was a huge trade. So.
Then there's like the Evgeny Dadonov.
All
right, so this was an interesting.
Was crazy.
This is an interesting story because like he had when he was traded to Las Vegas from Ottawa, I think it was like last July.
He had a limited no trade clause.
Yes. Ottawa like forgot to kind of tell Las Vegas.
They didn't disclose it to Vegas.
It said, hey, so he's got about like 10 teams he has a no trade clause for. One of them is Anaheim. So like Las Vegas tries to trade him to Anaheim earlier this week. The league like shuts it down. The Players Association fights it, says, no, you can't do that.
It got voided. The trade got voided.
So he comes back to Vegas and then like has a goal and 2 apples like last night. Say, okay, yeah, welcome back. We're happy to have you. All right,
Speaking of welcoming back.
Yeah, let's go. RotoWire's Paul Bruno. I mean, last night, tons of fun storylines, man. Which one was your favorite?
Well, I had an interest in the Tampa-Boston game for sure because one of them is going to be the meat that the Leafs feed on in the first round. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll take a bet with either of you on that series right now.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like he's treating me like I'm AJ, you know?
Yeah.
That's it.
And like you're Jeff.
Someone's got to be the AJ today. It can be you. But we have a 5-game slate tonight, so let's break down tonight's slate with you, Paul. Couple big names at the top of the DFS price list. Who are you going to pay up for?
Well, I'm not going to go right to the top, Jesse, but I'm going to be paying up for at least one of these 2 guys. I'll give you 3 actually to consider. Kyle Connor has been lighting it up like crazy in the second half of the season. He's at the 40-goal mark right now and cost $8,000 in a very favorable matchup against a Columbus club that is not the very best among the best defensively. So I like him to continue his recent role. He's been on fire for a while, and the same goes for Johnny Gaudreau. He's actually Connor on steroids for the last 30 games, I would say one of the top scorers in all of hockey on that dynamic Calgary first line that is certainly looking like the best line in the whole league for the last 2 months. And he's going to continue that role, I think, against Arizona in a very lopsided mismatch. He comes in at only $7,200. And then finally, Mikko Rantanen from the top line in Colorado. That's another one that's been blazing a wicked trail over the last 6 or 7 weeks. And they're going to roll Philadelphia. The Flyers had a nice win last night, but they're on the second of back-to-backs on the road, and that's going to spell trouble tonight in the Mile High City. For $7,200, I'm all over Rantanen.
All right, dude, you're usually very good at hooking people up with some value plays in the DFS department. So do that for us right now. You got a favorite?
Yes, I have a couple, and one of them is going to make his debut, and this is for AJ. I'm going to take Rickard Rakell, $3,700, a very low price tag, but he's going to fit in on one of the top 3 lines there and get some power play time against the Rangers, a team that had been going through some issues with goals against, but they've locked it down a little bit better. I just think this guy's in for a pretty good debut. He's going to be partnered with Jeff Carter and Kasperi Kapanen and get some power play time this evening, so that's a pretty good price tag for all that. Then Michael Backlund, another guy in the top 6 in Calgary at center on the second line versus Arizona. For $3,600, he's getting to play with Matthew Tkachuk and Dylan Dubé in a revised lineup for Calgary. They're starting to experiment getting ahead of the playoffs and want to see what they can do with this tinkering. And this is only going to cost you $3,600. I think it's another mismatch waiting to happen for Calgary, and Backlund takes part in it. And then finally, Nicholas Backstrom centering the second line at Buffalo. He's going to be joined by Anthony Mantha and Tom Wilson on a pretty rugged line with some scoring upside there. He's got 9 points in his last 10 games played, and I think it's a pretty good matchup in Buffalo.
All right, Paul, like we said, AJ's not here, so you are allowed to say something nice about the Penguins if you want.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Last time out against the Rangers, Pittsburgh scored the 1-0 shutout with Tristan Jarry making 27 saves for the shutout. He's 5-0 over his last 5 with a 1.6 goal against average. Is he or anybody else on this slate recording a shutout?
I'm going to say Kemper is the highest priced goalie on the board on merit for Colorado tonight. He's had an outstanding season, and he picked up a shutout recently. I think he's got a nice chance to duplicate that effort against a Flyers team that, as I said, is on the second of back-to-backs, and Colorado's on a roll, as they have been for a long while. And Jacob Markstrom of Calgary is another guy right behind him at $8,100, hosting Arizona. Of course, that's another lopsided mismatch, in my opinion, and I think he's got a good chance to get his 10th shutout of the season, which leads all goalies in the NHL. But the guy that might be a bit of a sleeper in this category is Vitek Vanacek of the Washington Capitals, playing very well of late, and he too, coming off a shutout recently, gets a visit to Buffalo tonight for $8,000. I see lower ownership for him, but the win probability is just as high as the other two guys that I mentioned.
All right, Paul, quick on this last one here. How about a goal total you're targeting? I'm seeing Philly and Colorado on their highest one at 6.5. They put up a baseball score 7-5 last time they faced off.
I see that being another game, another night to target this matchup, and I say go to the alternate total for 7.5 to get a bigger payout. I could also see Columbus and Winnipeg. These two teams are scoring a lot more and not defending very well, so I say go to the alternate line for 6.5 and go over that for another payoff, and go under Pittsburgh and the Rangers. These teams are heated rivals, big time matchup, important in their division. And neither one of them giving up too much lately. So I say go under the alt line at 5.5 for another improved payoff.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. One more block to go here on the sweat. We're taking a look at the NBA coming up next.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Final block here. We're going to turn our attention to the NBA. Let's see, storyline last night, Chris Paul returned and ended up hitting 15 of his 17 points after halftime, had 13 apples. Suns' 7th straight victory, and they clinched the first overall seed in the NBA playoffs.
And D-Book.
Yeah, D-Book was kind of a big deal, right?
49 points.
49, yeah. Can't really bury that.
There is no Kardashian curse because Kendall is not a Kardashian. She's a Jenner.
Oh, that's actually interesting when you put it that way.
Yeah, so people talk about the Kardashian curse with professional athletes, but it doesn't apply because Kendall is, I mean, she did date Ben Simmons.
Okay, all right.
But she clearly,
we're going down a rabbit hole
that was
here.
just an anomaly, I'm just saying.
All right.
Also, Dejante Murray.
Yeah, so there could
now
be a curse
an enemy
there.
of this show.
Is there a parlay curse with Dejante Murray? Look what he tweeted last night. They're so mad when them parlays don't hit.
And then,
we would like a word because, yes, we are upset when people's parlays don't hit.
Why is that funny to you?
It's not.
I mean, I get it. They probably get harassed all the time on the internet about
Probably.
But
let's see possibly what some of our basketball analysts would like to think you should work into a potential parlay tonight. DraftKings contributors Jeff Pratt and Matt Meiselman here for some NBA shoot-around. 7 games on the slate tonight, dudes. Matty, who are you paying up for in DFS?
Well, I think this is a slate that's going to have way more value plays than pay-up options because we're at the point in the season where rest is just normal, and there's probably some news that we haven't gotten yet that we're going to get at some point today Having said that, I think that two guys who are in pretty safe spots are in the head-to-head matchup between Minnesota and Dallas, Karl Anthony Towns, Luka Doncic. I'll take the Luka side. I think that a decent amount of people will be on him, but this is just someone whose usage rate is through the roof, and I don't really think there's a great option on this slate. I think Joel Embiid is going to get more of a look than Luka, but the price difference between those guys, I think that makes sense that Luka's lower owned. So it really comes down to this. I think Luka is the more contrarian of the pay up options. Ultimately, though, I don't feel great about this range, so I'm a little more excited to talk about value plays. But I think Dallas is in a really important spot, and that's maybe what breaks the tie for me, is that the Mavericks do need to try to win games right now to avoid the play-in tournament.
Jeff, 4 dudes that'll cost you at least 10 grand. You want one of them?
Maybe. I like taking a look at Joel Embiid, like Matt was saying. I think that Luka might be the better option, but if you want to pay all the way up, Joel Embiid at 11.2K makes the most sense to me. I mean, he's the MVP favorite on DraftKings Sportsbook right now for a reason. The guy shows up and performs every single night. He's racked up 56 plus DK fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games, and he should have no problem staying hot against the Clippers, who rank 21st in fantasy points allowed to centers. If you want to look a little bit under that 10K range, I like Donovan Mitchell too at 9K. The Jazz got dominated by the Celtics on Wednesday, but Mitchell still got his 50 fantasy points. He was relatively efficient as well. The West is tight in the 4 to 7 seed range, and he's doing everything he can to keep the Jazz out of the play-in games. He scored 30 plus points in 4 straight games. Everything runs through him on offense. He's seen a usage rate of 35% or higher in 5 straight, and that shouldn't change against Charlotte. The Hornets also rank near the top of the league in pace this year, so Mitchell should see more opportunities than usual.
Okay.
All right, Jeff, where are you looking to save some salary? A couple nice games on here.
I'm looking at that Warriors game. Otto Porter Jr. has really stepped up for Golden State, and they were looking for offense with Steph Curry out. But he's seen a usage rate of 18% or higher in 3 straight games, and he scored 37 plus DK fantasy points in back-to-back contests. Where he's really getting work done is on the glass. He's racked up 15 plus rebounds in each of his last 2 games, which is a little surprising considering he's only averaged 5 boards per game in his career. The Hawks are really struggling. As of late, they just lost to Detroit by 21, and they've been dropping games against bad teams left and right. Atlanta ranks 25th in DK fantasy points allowed to big men. So Porter Jr. has a ton of value at 4,600 for me.
All right, Matt, you said this is like your zone here today, that you like these value plays. So where are you going?
The spot I'm looking, it doesn't seem like they have value plays yet, but Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson are both game time decisions. The Knicks are basically eliminated from playoff contention at this point. I don't see why they would play partially healthy veterans in this matchup. It's just not one they need to win against the Miami Heat. So Obi Toppin's $4,500. And the thing that's exciting about this situation is the game is at 8 o'clock, which means that as game time decisions, we probably aren't going to find out about Randall and Robinson until after the slate locks. So that should mean that if Toppin gets the start, he's a lot lower owned than he otherwise would have been if we knew the whole day that Randall wasn't playing. And last game, Obi Toppin played 40 minutes and was really good, and the Knicks beat the Hornets on the road. So the minutes should be there. And this, I think if we knew Randall was out right now, Toppin would be the most popular player on the entire slate. But because this news might come later, I think less people will be aware of it. So this is all contingent on Toppin getting the start and Randall being out, but I do think that's likely. So I'm really excited about this Knicks situation if those guys don't play.
Last one here, guys. Jeff, which team is covering tonight?
I think the Sixers should cover at minus 5.5. Everyone's healthy for Philly as they have a legitimate shot at the top seed in the East. But this is more about the Clippers. Ty Lue's a phenomenal coach. I think very highly of him, but there's only so much you can do when your team is as decimated as LA is right now. They've lost by 6 or more points in 4 of their last 6 games, and they're struggling to hit triple digits in most of them. Between Harden, Embiid, and Maxey, that's just too much firepower for the Clippers to keep up with. Philly also ranks inside the top 10 in defensive rating this year. And when I look at LA's lineup, there are barely any matchups I see that could work in their favor offensively. These are games that you just have to win decisively as you gear up for a deep playoff run. So the Sixers should take care of business tonight.
Matty, not a lot of big spreads on this slate.
Well, there's one that I think should be a lot bigger than it is, and that's in Atlanta, where the Hawks are only minus 2.5 against the Warriors. Like Jeff said, the Hawks have been struggling, but for me, that just explains why the line is too low. I think there's a bias here that the Hawks just played probably their worst game of the season in Detroit. So if anything, to me, I think that they care a lot to bounce back from that. The Hawks are fighting for playoff position as much as anybody. And the Warriors did win in Miami with all of their backups, but this is a team that's really struggled for most of the year. And I think that that's, or at least the second half of the year when they've had injuries to Draymond Green and now Steph Curry. So I think this is definitely being masked by the fact that the Warriors won their last game and the Hawks lost their last game. I think the Hawks are the better team, and with home court advantage, they should be favored by a few more points than they are.
All right, that's a show. That's the Sweat. Madden starts at noon.
Thanks, guys.
The slate is at 5 p.m., and we'll be back Monday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Sweat.
That's true.